It began the night the moon hid its face. Umuoka village lay under a blanket of restless darkness, the kind that made even the dogs refuse to bark. The air was too still, the wind absent. People locked their doors earlier than usual. No one lingered outside after sunset, not when the elders had warned about the whistler. Ozee, the oldest man in Umuoka, had told it many times. When you hear the whistle after midnight, no matter who you think is calling you, do not answer. Do not even look. But warnings are easier to believe in the day. That night, Adan, a 17-year-old palm wine tapper's daughter, lay awake in her family's hut. She couldn't sleep. The darkness outside felt heavy, pressing against the mud walls. Somewhere far off, a goat bleated once, then silence again. Then she heard it. A sharp, thin whistle, rising and falling like a call from the wind. Her skin prickled instantly. It came again, closer now. Adan's mother stirred in her sleep, muttering something and turning over. Adan sat up. Her heart thudded in her ears. Maybe it's just someone from the next compound, she told herself, though her voice in her head didn't sound convinced. The whistle came a third time, just outside the hut. Adan froze. Every part of her body screamed to wake her parents, but she was afraid opening her mouth would let the sound in. Then she heard something else, soft footsteps outside, dragging, as though whoever it was wasn't fully lifting their feet. A whisper floated through the small gap in the wall. Adan. Her name. Her father's voice. Except, her father was inside, snoring. She clamped a hand over her mouth. Outside, the dragging footsteps moved past the hut and toward the stream path. The whistling faded into the distance. The next morning, the village woke to the news. Old Mama Nina had been found at the edge of the stream, her body cold, her eyes wide open, mouth still parted as if she'd been about to answer someone. Wound. No sign of a struggle. Just gone. The elders gathered in the square. Some said it was a spirit, others said a wandering madman. Ozee's voice was firm. It is the whistler. He has returned. And he will not stop. The whistler's story was not told to children until they were old enough to understand. The elders said he had once been a man, a hunter named Ifeanyi who lived long before anyone in the village was born. Ifeanyi had broken the greatest taboo. He had killed a sacred python that had crossed his path during a hunt, thinking it was just food. But the python was the messenger of Allah, the earth goddess. That night, he began to hear a strange whistle in his dreams, calling him into the forest. 3 days later, he vanished. They searched for weeks, but found only his footprints leading deep into the forest, then stopping abruptly at the foot of an iroko tree. Some say they heard him whistling in the trees for months after. Then the deaths began. The elders placed a law. No one must answer a whistle at night. No one must follow it. If the whistler called your name, you prayed until morning. 3 nights after Mama Nina's death, the whistle came again. This time, it was heard by 3 different households on the northern side of the village. Ifeanyi, a young hunter, had been sitting by his dying fire when he heard it. He almost called out, thinking it was his friend Namdi returning from the bush. But the sound was wrong, it carried no echo, as though it wasn't in the air but inside his skull. That night, a boy named Chike was taken. His parents swore they had all been sleeping in the same hut. But Chike's mouth was empty at dawn, the door still barred from the inside. People whispered now when they walked past each other. Some blamed witchcraft. Others said the whistler was not a spirit but a man wearing charms. A few muttered that the curse had been sleeping for decades, and someone, had woken it. Ifeanyi was not the kind to hide. The deaths made his blood burn. He went to Ozee and declared he would track the whistler. You cannot track what is not flesh, the old man warned. Everything that touches this ground leaves a trace, Ifeanyi replied. Against the elders' wishes, he prepared. That night, he stayed awake, a machete by his side, a small gourd of palm oil in his bag for protection. When the whistle came, low, winding, far at first, then nearer, he waited until it passed his hut, then slipped out silently. The moon was a thin scar in the sky. The sound led him toward the forest path. He kept to the shadows, every muscle tight. At the stream, he stopped. The whistling had ceased. Then he saw footprints, bare, but long, unnaturally long, each toe spread like a hand. They led straight into the forest. Ifeanyi was not the kind to hide. The deaths made his blood burn. He went to Umuoka and declared he would track the whistler. "You cannot track what is not flesh," the old man warned. "Everything that touches this ground leaves a trace," Ifeanyi replied. Against the elders' wishes, he prepared. That night, he stayed awake, a machete by his side, a small gourd of palm oil in his bag for protection. When the whistle came, low, winding, far at first, then nearer, he waited until it passed his hut, then slipped out silently. The moon was a thin scar in the sky. The sound led him toward the forest path. He kept to the shadows, every muscle tight. At the stream, he stopped. The whistling had ceased. Then he saw footprints, bare, but long, unnaturally long, each toe spread like a hand. They led straight into the forest. The thing dropped silently from the branch, landing a few feet from him. It stood taller than any man, its arms almost reaching the ground. Its head tilted to one side as though curious. "I know you," it said, though its mouth didn't move. The voice was inside his skull. "You hunt, but you do not know the prey." Ifeanyi forced his voice steady. "Why are you taking them?" It blinked slowly, then smiled, a smile that showed far too many teeth. "They called me, so I answered." "I heard them did not call," Ifeanyi spat. The smile widened. "All men call, when their hearts are empty enough." It stepped closer. The smell grew stronger. "Give me a name," it whispered. "One name, and I will leave you and your people for 100 harvests." Ifeanyi's stomach turned. He thought of his family, of Adan, of the fear in the village. And he thought of Namdi, the rival who had once left him bleeding in the bush over a hunting spot. The whistler's head tilted, as if hearing his thoughts. The next morning, the village awoke to screams from Namdi's compound. His wife had found the door open, his mat empty. People gathered, murmuring. Ifeanyi stood among them, eyes fixed on the ground, jaw tight. That night, no one else was taken. The elders said maybe the curse had passed. People began to move with a little less fear, though the grief still hung over the square. But Adan watched Ifeanyi closely. She had seen him slip into the forest the night before Namdi vanished. She didn't believe in coincidence. One night, she followed him. Ifeanyi returned to the Iroko tree often now. The whistler spoke to him there, promising secrets, how to make animals walk into his traps, how to call the rain, how to make enemies waste away without a touch. But it always ended the same way, names. "Give me names." When Adan confronted him, stepping from the shadows, his face drained of color. "I know what you're doing," she said. "You gave Namdi to it." "You don't understand," he hissed. "It would have taken more. This way, it stops." She shook her head. "It will never stop. You're feeding it." His hand tightened on his machete, not to strike her, but to steady his shaking. A whistle called through the air. The whistler emerged from the darkness, taller now, its skin stretched tighter, eyes gleaming. "You brought me another," it said, voice like dry leaves. Adan stepped forward before Ifeanyi could speak. "Take me, if it will stop you." The thing's smile vanished. "No. You offer yourself, not sweet. Fear is sweet." It turned its head to Ifeanyi. "Her name, or yours?" Ifeanyi's breath came fast. He could give her name and life, or give his own and end it. The forest waited, silent. Finally, he said, "Ifeanyi." The whistler's teeth gleamed. "Good." It stepped close, placing one long finger on his forehead. The whistle rose, filling the night until Adan's ears rang. When she opened her eyes, the whistler and Ifeanyi were gone. The next morning, no one in Umuoka heard the whistle again. But deep in the forest, when the wind is still, some say you can hear a man's voice, whistling for help that will never come.